Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Monday 25th March 2024 and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Haiti's Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier's close ally killed as Haiti spirals out of control. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. At least 2 gang leaders in Haiti were killed after the police launched a counter-offensive. One of the slain gang leaders was a close ally of former cop-turned-gang leader Jimmy Cherizier. Meanwhile, the transitionary council that was to replace Prime Minister Ariel Henry is facing a roadblock as CARICOM nations disagree over the potential appointment. Nations, including India, France, and Germany, have begun evacuating their citizens. Details in this First Post America report.
And now to the violence in the Caribbean. Haiti's police has launched a counteroffensive, killing at least 2 gang leaders in a span of 24 hours. During the operation, a gang leader named Ernst Jumet was killed in Port-au-Prince. Now, Jumet was the leader of a faction called Delmas 95 and a close aide of the man who started the entire chaos, Jimmy Cherizier. Now Jumet's death is a major setback for Cherizier and his gangs, as Jumet joined Cherizier's war only recently after a jailbreak. Jumet had been tasked with the takeover of posh neighborhoods in Haiti's capital. Now Cherizier has vowed to avenge the death of his trusted aide. The former cop turned gang leader has threatened to increase the intensity of violence. Meanwhile, the international community has stalled its promised intervention in Haiti. And moreover, the Transition Council that was meant to take over after the Prime Minister Ariel Henry's resignation is facing a roadblock. The 9-member council had been finalized by the neighboring Caribbean nations and the United States. But now there are reports of a political divide in the Caribbean community as they fail to agree on a new leader for Haiti. However, Washington has said that the formation of the Transition Council is nearing completion.
I understand that Haitian stakeholders are very close to finalizing membership and remain in active discussions with CARICOM leaders as it relates to the makeup of the Transitional Presidential Council.
However, Cherizier's gang says that they will not allow the Transition Council to govern Haiti.
We don't recognize the CARICOM meetings. We don't recognize the UN Security Council meetings. We don't recognize the body group meetings. We don't recognize the meetings held at the White House. Haiti's destiny has already been made and is not part of any of these groups.
Now, as the fighting escalates, nations, including France and Germany, have begun rescuing their citizens from Haiti. India, too, has launched an operation with support from the Dominican Republic. Meanwhile, Washington continues to provide aid and relief for Haitians as calls for action grow in the United States.
It's in our backyard, and many of the residents of Haiti are from New York City, from Miami, and from other parts of the Americas. And it's imperative that we have an immediate response. We cannot ignore it and act like it is not taking place. There are immediate things we can do right now. Stop the flow of guns, stop the deportation, give the expertise on how to stabilize the community, and give the resources that are needed at this time.
Now, with no sight of the Transition Council, Cherizier and his gangs have the upper hand, while the people of Haiti feel let down both by their government and the international community.
Venezuela seems to have escalated tensions with Guyana again. Caracas has unilaterally declared that the disputed region of Essequibo is now a Venezuelan state. Essequibo is an oil-rich region that has been governed by Guyana for the last 200 years. The dispute stretches to before Venezuela and Guyana were independent nations. But it is only now, on the eve of elections, that Venezuela chooses to escalate tensions. Is President Nicolas Maduro doing this for oil or for political gain? Palki Sharma of First Post America tells us more.
Venezuela is set to go to polls soon. Maduro has a tough fight on his hands. So what does he do? Stir up trouble with the neighbor. Venezuela has a territorial dispute with neighboring Guyana. It's a small country of less than 1 million people and an area of about 215,000 square kilometers. But Venezuela claims over 2/3 of Guyana. It claims an oil-rich region called Essequibo. This dispute has existed for almost 200 years, and yet it is now, on the eve of elections, that Venezuela has formally declared Essequibo a state, escalating tensions when it should be preparing for elections. Here's our report.
It's been approved unanimously. Consequently, the organic law for the defense of Guyana Essequibo is declared approved.
And with that, Venezuela kicked up a hornet's nest. It has once again angered its neighbor, Guyana. Caracas has declared that 2/3 of the neighboring country is a new Venezuelan state. The region is called Essequibo. It has been the object of a 2-century-long dispute, and now Venezuela has unilaterally tried to change the status quo. To add to the insult, Venezuela has named the state Guyana Essequibo. Imagine someone stealing your land and then naming it after you. Venezuela seems to be itching for a fight. Now technically, Venezuela has not taken over the land. Not yet anyway. Essequibo is still administered by Guyana. Caracas hasn't sent in the army to annex the territory. But by declaring it a state and saying that they have a right to defend it, Venezuela has escalated tensions. And it has raised the specter of conflict. So why is Venezuela doing this? Why does it claim the land? And is the claim legitimate? These are tricky questions, because the dispute is older than the countries of Venezuela and Guyana. It stretches back to the 1800s, when both nations were European colonies. Venezuela was a Spanish colony. Guyana was first a Dutch territory, then the British took over. That's when the problem began. Britain were mapping the new acquisition. They walked into Spanish territory and thought it belonged to them. They drew up new maps, and Essequibo was considered a part of British Guyana. Basically, a mapping error has led to a centuries-long dispute, which is British colonialism in a nutshell. However it happened, Guyana has governed Essequibo for almost 200 years. The region makes up 2/3 of Guyana. So, does Venezuela have the right to take over? Should Guyana be punished for the crimes of the British? These are questions the world has been struggling with. The US played mediator back in 1899. The United Nations had their say in 1966. And in 2018, the International Court of Justice was dragged in. But Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro doesn't want outside interference. He held a dubious referendum in December, and then claimed that Venezuelans wanted him to reclaim the territory. He has been sending troops to the border and expanding military bases. Now, Venezuela's parliament has formally declared Essequibo a state. Why is Maduro escalating tensions? Well, one thing to note is that Essequibo is full of oil. Guyana has also seen a boom in oil production, with the influx of firms like American giant ExxonMobil. For the last 3 months, Guyana has exported more oil than Venezuela. And Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. Their exports have slumped because of US sanctions on Maduro, and likely competition from Guyana. So, is this a move to take out the competition, or is it a distraction? Venezuela goes to polls in July. Reports say Maduro is losing support. So, is Essequibo a way for Maduro to unite Venezuelans behind him? There are many questions, and no one seems to have the answers. But one thing is clear, the world cannot afford another war.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
In other news out of Trinidad and Tobago, Commissioner of Police Erla Christopher says the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has recognized that the recent incidences of crime have fueled a widespread fear and anxiety in communities. She was speaking at the TTPS media briefing on Thursday. TTT News has more.
Commissioner of Police Erla Christopher gave the assurance to the public that the police are in control and are able to control the increase in the violent crime.
We have noted that the firearms continue to be the weapon of choice. Our problem is caused by the prevalence of drugs, guns, and gangs. For this year already, we have recovered 117 weapons.
The top cop said 1,430 rounds of ammunition were also seized. She said firearms continue to impact the violent crime in the country. Senior Superintendent of the Criminal Investigations Department, Rishi Singh, said for the year to date 124 murders have been recorded. He said the TTPS has been able to charge 23 persons for 26 murders.
11 of those persons charged for 11 murders for this year. The remainder being murders for previous years. The detection rate for 2024 at the moment hovers at around 9%, and we have a revised detection rate for 2023 as we continue to solve matters for previous years. It has improved to 16%, and we anticipate greater improvements as we progress.
He said investigations generally are very onerous responsibilities.
In this regard, we are to rely on real limbs of evidential material to discharge our burdens of proof. The commentary of social media, though potentially insightful, do not by itself constitute evidential support.
Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of the Criminal Division, Vina Butler, said 59% of all murders in Trinidad and Tobago for the year 2024 were deemed to be gang-related. Mahalia Joseph Horton, TTT News.
The acting Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Chester Cooper, and Minister of National Security, Wayne Monroe, addressed the Northern Caribbean Security Summit. ZNS News has more.
Transnational crimes generate an estimated $1.6 trillion to $2 trillion every year, according to Minister of National Security, the Honorable Wayne Monroe. With that in mind, as the Bahamas host the Northern Caribbean Security Summit that opened Thursday at the British Colonial Hotel and ends on Friday, Monroe says the Bahamas, along with stakeholders from the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Turks and Caicos Islands, will devise ways to protect citizens, particularly the most vulnerable.
Discuss ways to break the financial backbone of criminal networks, disrupt and dismantle illicit trafficking networks, and deliver unrecoverable goals to the transnational criminal groups. All nations present have felt the effect of illicit firearms and drug trafficking on our respective citizens. More disturbing are the impacts on youth violence, and while there are some gaps in the system, there is compelling evidence that there's a relationship between drugs, firearms, and juvenile violence.
The Security Summit is being held under the theme Advancing Today's Security Strategies for a Safer Tomorrow and is focused on countering transnational organized crime, drugs, and armed trafficking. Acting Prime Minister, the Honorable Chester Cooper, who opened the event, says he hopes it will be productive and advance the security challenges faced by the participating countries.
The quest for safety and security in the 21st century remains an overarching concern for all member states. present here today. Without a doubt, we all face an array of urgent, diverse, and complex security challenges. The agenda as presented reflects the interconnectivity and the commonality that all of the safety and security threats present in member states. Consequently, all of the identified threats to be discussed over the next 2 days are indeed borderless. Thus, they cannot and will not be resolved by any one country.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.